Turning the mute off. Okay, of course. What is going on, Bills Mafia? Ryan Thomas here. Thomas Take Sports Podcast. We are 8 days away from the 2024 NFL Draft. Really pumped up for this week leading up to the NFL Draft. I'm in the process of moving, so it's a good thing that there's virtual backgrounds. I'll just put it that way. Really appreciate, first and foremost, really appreciate all the love and support that I've received over the course of many years of doing this show, dating back 8 years. And of course, with that, for those of you that have been tuning in, I really appreciate all those that have been tuning in on the Buffalo Fanbase Podcast Network. Of course, I'd love for you guys to subscribe to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast on YouTube. Go to YouTube, type in the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Let's get the subscriber count up. That way you don't miss any of the action from within any of my episodes. At the top right logo, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Chime in, fire away some comments in the comment section below. Give me your thoughts on what I have to say tonight. We got a very interesting show for Bills fans to tune into tonight. Of course, chime in and subscribe. Never miss a beat of the action. So with that being said, my social media, bottom right corner as well, at Ryan Thomas Take. You can follow me there. This show is one that would consist of Buffalo Bills 2024 NFL Draft first round options that do not include a wide receiver. Yes, there are other positions to take outside of wide receiver, despite what you see on most of the mock drafts pertaining to the Buffalo Bills. There are more options to be had than wide receiver. Honestly, that is my number one need for the Buffalo Bills. That's what I hope. That's what I prefer. They draft this upcoming draft next Thursday. But if there were 5 guys that I would really like for the Buffalo Bills to take in the 2024 NFL Draft, I'm going to start off with just who I think could be very, very helpful to the Buffalo Bills. So this list features 4 defensive players, and that's a little bit bold on my part. But 4 defensive players, the one offensive position is not a wide receiver. So you guys do the math on this. We'll start off with just my first one. And to me, when I look at this draft, I know that this draft has a deep wide receiver class. I understand that just as well as anyone. I do think that this draft very well could have 8 wide receivers drafted in this draft that could be a record-breaking draft, right? Could be a record-breaking draft for, the NFL to see not 7 wide receivers go, but 8 wide receivers go. So I want to kind of play a little bit of devil's advocate in this episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. I want to go to numero uno, option number 1. But before I do that, before I dive into the other positions that I think Buffalo could target in this year's NFL Draft, I want to talk about the show sponsor, 26shirts.com. If you're looking for new gear to represent your Buffalo Bills fandom, your Buffalo Sabres fandom, or if you just love Buffalo, go to 26shirts.com and look at their merchandise that they have available between t-shirts, hats, hoodies, jackets, you name it. 26shirts.com. You can go there, purchase a shirt there, and that purchase goes back into the community that we all know and love, that you love, that I love, and it's a great, great company to have as a part of the Buffalo fan base, as we do. So go to 26shirts.com, buy a t-shirt, know that it goes to a great cause, and their designs are very unique. So with that being said, of course, we'll go to the first option that I want to discuss, that is Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. Now, Buffalo likes their defensive backs out of Iowa. Key name there, Micah Hyde, formerly the Ohio Hawkeye, I believe. Cooper DeJean, 6 foot, 1 inch tall, 203 pounds, graded by the NFL draft experts as a plus starter in this draft. A guy that could be a plus starter, could start as a rookie. That's what Buffalo is going to try to tap into in this year's NFL draft. They're going to try to find as many guys as they can that could be plus starters, that could be, very well stated here, starting players as a rookie. And Cooper DeJean is listed in the top 30 in this draft. And oddly enough, the highly competitive defensive back out of Iowa with plus ball skills is visiting with Buffalo in a top 30 visit. A big, strong, bundled type player for a corner or safety with physical traits that I think are eye-popping. Physical traits that made all 32 teams in the National Football League say to themselves, this guy's got something special. The reason I like Cooper DeJean as well is due to the fact that he is a quiet player. He just does his business. You don't hear a whole lot about him off the field, on the field. The humbleness, the ability to just lead was always known to most talent evaluators in the National Football League or even in the NCAA, that Cooper DeJean has something special to him, a quiet humbleness and a quiet confidence that once the game starts to envelop, Cooper DeJean shows his confidence. And I think he's a player that Sean McDermott would really love. He checks off a lot of boxes that we've seen players within Sean McDermott's defense, of course, really discover. So Cooper DeJean, that's my next one as far as top 5 players that I would want Buffalo to take a look at. Now, of course, as we go to the next player here, I'm going to go on the other side of the ball. And as I mentioned, 4 out of these 5 players are defensive players. The second one that I want to go to, the other side of the ball, pardon me on that, it's on the other side of the ball. So when I look at great players, great projects, great opportunistic type players, I look at Jackson Powers Johnson. I look at Jackson Powers Johnson as someone that is not just a center. There is more reason to say that, of course, when you take a look at Jackson Powers Johnson via the Oregon Ducks, you say to yourself, that's a guy that any team would want. Any team would want and any team would need. So Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, it doesn't take long to watch his tape and see toughness, see a nastiness about him that would fit any NFL offensive line room. And the reason I bring up the center position is because we just lost Mitch Morse. Mitch Morse, to me, was as shocking a loss as any in terms of the cuts that the Bills made. I did not expect Mitch Morse to be a part of that list of players that would be cut by the Buffalo Bills. I thought, okay, maybe this is his last year, but they moved on. Then shortly after that, I hear that the Buffalo Bills are hoping that Connor McGovern can slide and kick out from left guard, play center, and be that middleman in the offensive line for the Buffalo Bills. And I'm a little bit skeptical on that, not in the sense that I don't think Connor McGovern can play that position, but in the sense that last year, the one cog finally that Buffalo had over any other team last year was that they had all 5 starting offensive linemen from start of the season to the season's end. No other team had that. And Buffalo's offensive line allowed the least amount of sacks in the National Football League. Now, you can say that that comes down to Josh Allen's escapability, Josh Allen's ability to throw the ball quickly. You could say that Buffalo's offensive line was pretty damn good last year, and Mitch Morse was a part of that. Now, I don't want to see that take a back step, especially when Buffalo will not have Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. They'll have some new pieces on offense at wide receiver, new pieces on offense on the offensive line. With that, you'd want a guy that can come in and be an anchor, possibly. Truth be told, just looking at X's and O's and how teams look to make their team better come draft night, few picks are as rock solid, are as rock steady as Jackson Powers Johnson. I would not be mad if the Buffalo Bills went this route. If there is a receiver that they don't want, or the receiver that they did want, I should say, is gone and they're at 28 and Jackson Powers Johnson is there, I would understand it. Next, defensive end, Liatu Latu. Tough to say, right? I'm hoping I'm not botching it. But I'll tell you this. This goes into another discussion that I have to have with the Bills Mafia. Once again, have to have it. Von Miller is the elephant in the room, not the departure of Stephon Diggs. Von Miller is the elephant in the room that no one really wants to discuss. What have we gotten out of Von Miller post the devastating knee injury? Statistically, not a whole lot. And to his credit, Von Miller did take an $8.5 million pay cut. To his credit, he had to do that, right? He had no leverage not to do that. So it's not like they asked him. They told him, hey, you're taking this. You're under contract. We can reconfigure this. This is how we're doing that. So to me, when I look at just pass rusher as a possibility, it's a distinct one. I mean, you can never have enough pass rushers. And this draft does have quite a few in the first round. Dallas Turner, Liatu Latu being one of them as a dynamic athletic pass rusher in the mold of what Buffalo has taken with AJ Epinesa, with Gregory Rousseau. Do they add to that? Because Gregory Rousseau is coming up on the last year of his contract. He's got that fifth-year option that they will probably enact. But Von is on his last legs. There is no doubt about that to me. So if you're just looking at talent, if you're looking at best player available, if you're looking at what position can you never have enough of, pass rusher is one of them. So that's why I have a 6'5", 255-pound defensive end, 65-pound, pardon me, defensive end who started all 12 games last season, was UCLA's first ever winner of the Lombardi Award, the Ted Hendricks Award, and the Polynesian Defensive Player of the Year honor, finalist for the Chuck Bednarik Award in the Lot Impact Trophy. He led the nation in tackles for loss per game, averaging 1.8 tackles per loss per game, and ranked fourth nationally, second in the league in sacks per game with an average of 1 per game. His total of 13 sacks rates as the most by a Pac-12 player, and tied for this season, of course, and tied for third on the all-time UCLA season list. The 13 sacks are the most by a UCLA Bruin since Anthony Barr, familiar name, Josh Allen hurdled him. He recorded 13.5 in 2012, first-round pick, played in the NFL for many years. His total of 23.5 sacks over the last 2 seasons are the most by a UCLA player since Anthony Barr. And his total of 21.5 tackles for loss are the most by any player in the nation last season. And the highest mark by a Bruin, of course, since Anthony Barr with 21.5 in 2012. So this was a barn burner year, 2023, for Liatu Latu. And to me, when I look at impact, that's what this draft to me is about for the Buffalo Bills. Who are the players that can make an impact on this team, that could come aboard year one and be difference makers and be immediate impact players. And I think you'd make that claim in any year. It's not a 1 year type thing where you want impact players in the draft. You want impact players in the draft every year. But for Buffalo, who was coming off of an offseason where you saw a lot of guys come out of one Bills drive rather than into one Bills drive, we need this draft to be a hit. You need your first round pick to be an impact player. You can't miss on your first round pick. And this would not be that at all. Now, going to the fourth name that I want to list as an impact player for the Buffalo Bills. I had to tell my Alexa to turn off. The next fourth player on this list, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Bama. Boom. Kool-Aid, my man. He is one of my favorite players in this draft. And there are a lot of pros about this player. I look at Kool-Aid McKinstry as a new breed cornerback in the National Football League. We've seen guys like Sauce Gardner come into the league, more than 6'1", more than 6'2", more than 6'3". There's a guy on the Seattle Seahawks by the name of Trayvon Woolen. I think I'm saying that right. I hope I am. This guy's 6'4", 215 pounds, playing corner. Kool-Aid McKinstry is more of an athlete type corner. Not that that's a bad thing, but 6'1", 200 pounds. Listed, according to Alabama's Athletics, this guy went up against the best of the best in the SEC. Playing in Alabama, you're going to. And he also contributed as a punt returner. And he was also selected as a first-team All-American by the AP and Sporting News. Lauded by the media with every accolade that you could receive. But the statistics are really what stand out to me. Tackling ability is really what stands out to me. Ability to cover is what stands out to me. At the end of the day, that's what a corner needs to do. And this is a big position for me of need that I don't think is being talked about. The loss of Trey White these last 2 years drastically changed the Buffalo Bills defense. Now, it might not have changed it come rankings at season's end, but Trey White was the first draft pick, first round draft pick in the Sean McDermott era. He mattered very much to this defense, to this locker room, and yes, to this team. Might not have been the same type of leader as a Jordan Poyer or Micah Hyde. Might not have been the same type of leader as Josh Allen, for example. But was a presence, a long-time presence. And as much as I absolutely love the trade that netted the Buffalo Bills Rasul Douglas, as much as I love the fact that Christian Benford has stepped up as a 6th-round cornerback out of Villanova, as much as I believe still to this day in the progress of Kaiir Elam, I would go on to say that there is no position as important right now in today's NFL outside of quarterback than cornerback. You need guys that can cover. These wide receivers on some of these teams positionally are 2-3 deep. So you need guys that can cover. You need guys that can track the football. You need guys that can play smart at that cornerback position. Kool-Aid McKinstry is not a bad option. Do I believe he'll be there at 28? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how this draft goes. But in most mock drafts, he's in the top 25. Brandon Beane's moved up. He's done so before. Will he move up for a corner? If the board tells him to, he'll do it. Then you go to Nate Wiggins out of Clemson, another corner. And Nate Wiggins, 6'2", a little leaner, 185 pounds, but speed. And this is an attribute that Brandon Beane himself has talked about extensively. What types of player traits are we looking for? We're looking for speed, offense, defense. We're going to try to find it. No matter where we can find it, Nate Wiggins is one of those guys that I think any team could plug in. He immediately translates to the speed of today's National Football League, which does matter. You need to have the ability to have guys with transferable skill to today's game, which is ever evolving and ever changing, rightfully or wrongfully, however which way we want to look at it. We need guys that can cover. We need guys that can play shutdown football. And Kool-Aid McKinstry, Nate Wiggins, any one of these 5 players that I've listed as draft options outside of wide receiver in the first round for the Buffalo Bills, any one of those 5 I would not be upset with. Hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. Really appreciate all the love and support. We are 1 week away from the NFL draft. I'm Ryan Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in.